Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual show for all the filthy casual takes on the world of wrestling and sports. I am DylanLasagna, your filthy casual host, and we are back to preview my San Francisco 49ers as they prepare for their Week 5 matchup. So, going into the week that was beforehand, for my 49ers, they suffered an embarrassing loss to the Denver Broncos a couple of weeks before. So, going to Week 4, they need to save their season. Yes, they entered that similar scenario from last year. And it was a Monday night matchup in Week 4 against the LA Rams. And certain people, I'm not going to say who it was. I mean, you probably heard it from me. Giving the Niners no benefit of the doubt that they could beat the Rams on a Monday night again. But that's exactly what happened. And they put the hurt on the Rams thanks to a solid effort from the offense, even though they only scored 3 points in the second half, on that side at least. But the defense did a very, very, very good job on their end as they put the hurt on Matthew Stafford and the Rams yet again in a 24-9 victory to even their record 2-2, and the entire NFC West is at that record. Now they have an opportunity to stretch that lead, stretch their place in first place in that division as they started a 2-game East Coast swing around the country that begins in Carolina against the 1-3 Panthers. So, yeah, for these Carolina Panthers, they're led by head coach Matt Rhule, and I think it's his third year now as a head coach, and their first year starter who got traded from the Cleveland Browns, aka the Skid Marks, Baker Mayfield. So for the Panthers, they're 1-3. Their only victory this season so far has come from the New Orleans Saints, who in that game they did pretty solid defensively, even though both offenses in that game were pretty bad in that game. But even with that victory, things continued to sail south for the Kitties in blue, as I like to call them. So most recently in their Week 4 game against the Arizona Cardinals, Christian McCaffrey, very limited. He was shut down to just 27 rushing yards. And yeah, when you shut down Christian McCaffrey, that spells trouble for the rest of the Panthers offense, including quarterback Baker Mayfield. Made one too many errors against an unfazed Cardinals defense that got it rolling in the second half as Kyler Murray and James Conner put the hurt on them in a 26-16 victory over the Kitties in blue. So, what do we really expect for this matchup? Well, you can expect a lot of struggling quarterback play from both Jimmy G and Baker Mayfield. So pretty much what we saw from that ugly ass Thursday night game on Amazon Prime Video. So, I mean, I guess you could say that, well, we're going to get that kind of matchup except on network television. At least a good, I guess you could say 50% on CBS are going to see that game. Not like it's going to be on national America's Game of the Week or something. So I guess that's a plus. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of defense from this game. I guess mainly from the 49ers side. A lot of the run game from both teams. So yeah, it's not going to be a very exciting matchup for both of these teams. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a filthy casual chair guy sitting in this room talking crazy shit about football. So looking at the injury report for both of these teams, starting with my 49ers, the injury list just keeps piling on for my 49ers. So including backup offensive lineman Colin McCaffrey. He's now out several weeks with an MCL sprain. He suffered that in the Monday night game against the Rams. So he joins Elijah Mitchell and Azeez Al-Shaair with similar injuries. And now down to our third stringer, Jalen Moore. He's going to have to shoulder the load against more better pass rushers in the coming weeks. Not to say that the Panthers have those pass rushers, but eventually, now that Trent Williams is still out, now Colt McCaffrey is out, Jalen Moore has a tall task ahead of him going down this stretch. So, I don't know. should the Niners consider trading for another lineman minus point? I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe they could give up one of their very late round picks for a bottom of the barrel, decent O lineman. It's possible. It's possible. Or maybe you can see Daniel Brunskill shift to the left tackle position. Maybe. So anyway, you already have ruled out defensive lineman Eric Armstead with foot and ankle injuries. He can possibly even go on injured reserve. Kyle Shanahan talked about this on his Friday press conference, which would be a shame if he did. But then again, we kind of have the depth on the defensive line with Kerry Hyder Jr. And Drake Jackson in the interior. So I think we could be capable of the depth in that on the defensive line. It would just be a shame that Eric Armstead would be put on injured reserve if that's the case. Defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw is again out with a knee injury. Hopefully he'll get to play next week in Atlanta. Corner Tarvarius Morris remains out with a hamstring injury, so that kind of sucks. Others that are going to be missing that are already going to miss multiple weeks, if they haven't already, include Tyrion Davis-Price and Trent Williams. So, I mean, they were already out last week, and they're still going to remain out with their respective injuries. Receiver Danny Gray, he participated in full practices this week after being out Monday night with a hip injury. So, I mean, they haven't been using him much anyway. So, I mean, it's good that they have some receiver depth just in case you need to rotate him in and out. So, that's something. Meanwhile, for the Carolina Panthers, they're a little banged up in the defense, especially in the secondary, because their starting full safety Jeremy Chin just got placed on short-term injury reserve with a hamstring injury. One of their main producers. It's going to be a little tough to replace, especially considering that his replacement, Xavier Woods, not from the New Day, not from the New Day in WWE. He's also currently listed as questionable with his own hamstring injury after missing practice all week. So whether Xavier Woods, again, not from the WWE, it could also miss this game as well. So anyway, both Jeremy Chin placed on injury reserve, short term at least, and you don't know what Xavier Woods could be missing in action too. Linebacker Frankie Luvu could also miss this game as well, but he's currently listed as questionable with a shoulder injury. He got 2 limited sessions in, but we'll see if he can give it a go. But even then, you can't afford to lose him with this impactful play on defense. Linebacker Shaq Thompson got in 2 full practices as he dealt with an injury, so he should be a full go. Corner Stanley Thomas Oliver III ruled out with a thigh injury. On the offensive end, Christian McCaffrey, so far, he's dealt with his own fair share of injuries, but he is expected to play. But they will be missing receiver LaVisca Chenault. He's expected to miss a few weeks with a hamstring injury, so I guess you could say one key piece in their offense, even though they have DJ Moore in there, but I guess in the opposite end, one less weapon for Baker Mayfield to throw to. So some of your top stories of the week for both sides. Jimmy Ward, their safety, and corner Jason Verrett. They're recently practicing again. So after Jimmy Ward was on short-term IR and Jason Verrett was on the physically unable to perform list, Jimmy Ward was dealing with the groin injury that he suffered during preseason. And Jason Verrett still making his way back from the torn ACL from last year's game in Detroit. So it would be nice to have them back for the Carolina game, but I'd rather have them ease back in. Especially considering how good the defense is playing so far. So either way, still good news for the 49ers. Nice to have some depth on the defensive end. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, if they lose this game, granted, they that's the case. If they lose this game to the 49ers, the ownership could consider firing Matt Rhule soon. We don't know when that may be. According to recent rumors and speculation, if things don't pick up, whatever that means. So, yeah, considering what Matt Rhule has done in the last 3 years, It honestly hasn't been much. It hasn't amounted to much. I mean, he's been focusing a lot on the defensive end, getting all these pass rushers, these corners, and not much on offense. And what significant piece on offense has he gotten in the last year? Sam Darnold from the Jets, and now Baker Mayfield from the skid marks. Yeah, good thinking on that one. So if he does get fired, apparently the reports speculate that if he does get fired, Steve Wilkes, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, who got shafted after a shitty situation, would get the nod at interim coach if it does happen. Some players to watch for both teams. Obviously, for the Niners, it's Jimmy Garbage Fail. Obviously, you know, it's a week-to-week basis. Sometimes he can be good. Sometimes he can be bad. Hopefully he takes care of the football, makes good decisions. Just don't fuck up the game. I mean, at this point, it's the same old story with Jimmy Garbage Fail. The offensive line, clearly all the injuries are still piling up. There's going to be a lot of shuffling within that line, especially considering the pass rushers they're going to be dealing with on the Panthers side. Tight end George Kittle, the way that they used him on Monday night was unacceptable. It took until the second half for him to get his first catch. And then he had 2 targets overall. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, sure, you already have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. You have like three good weapons. Of course, Deebo, a really good weapon. But you have one of your top tight ends right there in George Kittle. Use him. I mean, at least Kyle Shanahan acknowledged that he wants to use Kittle more in the passing game. But talk is cheap. Hopefully, he starts using him more in the passing game against Carolina. These 2 games against Carolina and Atlanta, these is an opportunity to do so. Especially considering the chemistry that Jimmy G and George Kittle have. I mean, that's something I can give Jimmy G for. Meanwhile, for the Carolina Panthers, obviously Baker Mayfield is a player to watch because, you know, he can look okay in 1 week, and then the next week he can look like shit. Especially once the mistakes start rolling in, like they did in the Arizona game, it becomes really problematic for the Panthers offense. And like the case with Arizona, they took full advantage of Baker Mayfield's mistakes, whether it's Baker Mayfield throwing high over the receivers or throwing it to the other team. That becomes really problematic for this Panthers offense because once they shut down Christian McCaffrey, I guess that's a good transition to the next player to watch. The entire offense stalls. Like, they go nowhere. Like, everything revolves around Baker Mayfield. So, the 2 next players to watch for the Panthers are on the defensive end. Ryan Burns, their defensive end, and linebacker Shaq Thompson. 2 good, reliable pass rushers for Carolina that can exploit the weaknesses of the 49ers' current offensive line, especially on the left tackle spot. If Jalen Moore is right there, did you see him play against Denver? Oof. So, at least I just hope and pray that Jalen Moore can protect that side of the line, because if he can't, it's gonna be a rough day for Jimmy G. Just hope that Jimmy G can get the ball out quick. So the keys to victory for both of these teams going to this game in week 5, obviously for the 49ers, you got to protect Jimmy G, especially on that left side. If you can't protect Jimmy G on that side, it's either going to be a rough day of sacks, a lot of hits, or Jimmy G, you got to get rid of that ball real quick. I'm not sure if a lot of runs to the left are going to do you any favors. Running a lot of running back plays to the left are going to do you any favors. Or perhaps maybe you can run, open up some running lanes in the middle, or run to the right. Something to avoid that left spot. And of course, get George Kittle more involved in the passing game. Obviously, their corners are going to probably target Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk more. This is an opportunity. Again, this is an opportunity for them to target George Kittle more, get him some more reps in. And then, of course, you have Jawan Jennings there. He was off the injury report, but this is a more prime opportunity to get Kittle, the receiver, more involved. For the Carolina Panthers, same deal as Jimmy G. you got to protect Baker Mayfield. Give him time to not force his way into mistakes, especially considering that the 49ers pass rush is very relentless. Especially considering that the Panthers offensive line is pretty much also not as good as the 49ers offensive line. These offensive lines for each team are very poor. It's very, very poor. But granted that these quarterbacks also make poor decisions too. So either way, you got to protect your quarterback. And Baker Mayfield has to limit his mistakes, even with the pressure coming towards him, or even when there's protection. And for Christian McCaffrey, I would like for him to focus on outside running room, because with that Stonewall, Nick Bosa, Drake Jackson, Samson Ebukam, and even Kerry Hyder Jr. and others in that depth of pass rush, that can be problematic if they try to run up the middle, and try to get some open running in, because that Niners defensive line is like a wall. It is like a wall. So for the 49ers to win this game, again, protect Jimmy G. If they can't, Jimmy G got to get the ball out really quick, and they got to get George Kittle involved. So I'm going with the Niners to win this game, but, they can't play their brand of Niners football on Sunday. They can't overlook this game. They just can't focus on 2 weeks from now when they play the Kansas City Chiefs back at home. They have to take care of their business and treat it like it's any other game. They have to lock down and take care of their shit. And if they do that, they'll par the course, even with the bad offense. So let me know your thoughts on this upcoming 49ers game against the Carolina Panthers, coming up this Sunday in Week 5. It's a 1 o'clock game, even on the East Coast. Kind of weird how that works out. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this game for the 49ers in the comments down below. Anyway, this is DylanLasagna signing out a very cold lasagna, and keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of wrestling and sports, and my San Francisco 49ers as well. And until next time, peace out.